Well, I feel like the pandemic has kind of changed what we know about one another. Some people are spending more time than they're used to with one another. In particular, if you're not going out for work or school or activities, you're spending time together with your family at home, you might be noticing things about one another you didn't notice before. Is his color just a little off? I feel like she's quieter than usual. He's been favoring that hip for a long time now. She has become so kind and open lately. Look at how she's caring for her sister. Oh, does he have to do that every single time? And shoot, why does that bother me so much? Why do I react this way every single time? When you live among, you notice things. You adjust your patterns of behavior and living to patterns. Living among changes how we experience others, and it changes us. So some of us are living among, a few of us more than before. And perhaps in some ways, even ways we might not have expected, knowing one another a little bit more intimately. But mostly we are living among much less, with so many more people. Because I don't see you very often. I only know about you what I either assume, which is never a good idea, or what you choose to communicate with me, or simply think or remember to tell me, and through a phone call or a letter or some other means. And absolutely, I can reach out to you in that way too, but I still only know what you tell me, whatever concerns are on your mind in that moment. Something that happened 3 days ago might be old news. Oh, I didn't think to tell you that. And I have to remember to tell you things too. Did you stop dyeing your hair? I don't know. You're having a baby? I didn't know. Any of you grandparents who are trying to communicate with teenagers only over the telephone right now know exactly what I'm talking about. How's school going? Fine. Anything interesting or new happened this week? No. Okay then. I know that this past week in particular, I have been lamenting that feeling of disconnection. My life is understandably less interrupted, less changed, less affected by yours. Because we are specifically not living among one another right now. And we know too how easy it is, how quickly we move from out of sight to out of mind. Just because we focus on what's right in front of us. And then suddenly we say, oh my gosh, what about? Oh, I didn't think about, oh, I wonder how they're doing. I haven't seen them for a long time. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. This is the opening message in the Gospel of John that we read often at Christmas, and I think we read extra poignantly this year. Reflection by David Lowes reminds me that the word that John uses, that we translate as lived, is a Greek word that's often translated as dwelt, which is maybe the more familiar way you've heard this verse read. But it can also be translated as setting up one's tent, fixing one's tabernacle. Given that John suggested right from the very first verse of his story, in the beginning, that he was writing a new kind of Genesis, we probably shouldn't be surprised if he also claims to be retelling the story of Israel. And the tabernacle was the tent that the Israelites built to house the Ark of the Covenant. Think Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes, that Ark. And to contain God's holy presence after the Exodus, through all of their wanderings and conquest of the Holy Land, right until they built the Temple of Jerusalem. So John is suggesting, more than suggesting, he's actually claiming, he's confessing that Jesus, who he calls the Word made flesh, is a new means by which we now have access to God's presence, and that God has a new access to us. And more than that, John's saying that the glory of God, that previously was thought to be too powerful for human eyes to see, is now intimately accessible in a very ordinary human form, right in the midst of our very life. That which has always been far away and inaccessible, says John, is now nearby, readily available to us. God will be at home wherever we call home. Well, when John first spoke those words, they were strange words indeed. And in truth, they are still challenging words for us. The living among us of God as one of us might not be a completely foreign concept to our ears. We've had thousands of years of Christmases, after all. We've got pop songs like, "What if God was one of us?" But we still have this habit of putting up dividing walls between heaven and earth, between human and divine, between spiritual and material, between history and eternity. After all, Bette Midler had a hit song also that was, "God is watching us from a distance." And when life is challenging for us, we look in the distance for God to come and save us or protect us or fix it. But we do not need to search for God, says one writer, but only to recognize the one in whom God came to live among us and whose Spirit remains in us. Or as Barbara Brown Taylor wrote, God put skin on those divine attributes, roots of grace and truth, so that followers who want to know how they sound and act have someone to show them. So God already knows what a difficult time this is in our world. God already knows what is hard for each of us and all of us right now. And the promise of every Christmas, and maybe particularly this one, is that God's grace and truth lives among us, makes a home among us, right in the challenging and difficult night darkness. And the light shines in that darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. Have you noticed? Where have you seen God's love showing up around you? Where has the light persisted when it really shouldn't be possible right now? When circumstances are doing everything possible to shut down peace and love? We don't have to look very far. We don't have to go a distance. I've noticed a number of compassionate and kind and loving things happening lately. People are taking opportunities in ways that they can to show that they care. I was the recipient of a particularly thoughtful gift of kindness on Friday myself. Also this week, in Jefferson County, West Virginia, I suppose that's a bit of a distance, but still, not so far. The school superintendent, Bondi Shea Gibson, heard that they were getting their first snow. And after consulting the weather reports and parents and childcare providers, sent out the following letter to all of the families in their catchment area. This is what it said. For generations, families have greeted the first snow day of the year with joy. It is a time of renewed wonder at all the beautiful things each season holds. A reminder of how fleeting childhood can be. An opportunity to make some memories with your family that you hold on to for life. For all of these reasons and many more, Jefferson County Schools will be completely closed for tomorrow, December 16th, in honor of the first snow day of the year. Closed for students, closed for virtual, closed for staff. It has been a year of seemingly endless loss and the stress of trying to make up for that loss. For just a moment, we can let go of all the worry of making up for the many things we missed by making sure that this is one thing our kids won't lose this year. So please enjoy a day of sledding and hot chocolate and cozy fires. Take pictures of your kids in snow hats they will outgrow by next year. And read books that you've wanted to lose yourself in but just haven't had the time. We will return to the serious and urgent business of growing up on Thursday, but for tomorrow, go build a snowman. Similar, not unlike anyway, those who put their energy and time into making it possible for Santa to visit the streets of Portage la Prairie the past couple of evenings. Meanwhile, I spoke recently with a member of this congregation who's dealing with a significant and serious illness. And she was telling me that how her experience of our healthcare system has really only served to remind her how very, very many good and caring people there are in the world. She will not be cured. But in this very challenging time for her and our world, everywhere she looks, she's seeing light in action. Like her, like the prophet John, we are called to be witnesses, to be changed by the love that surrounds us, as if we truly are becoming more intimately connected and living among, at home together. As the prophet spoke, the light was in the world. The light came to the people, but the people didn't recognize or welcome it at first. But the Word became flesh and made a home among us. This Christmas, may we recognize and experience this glory, full of grace and truth. Amen.